Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Some big potential Rostermania developments last night as to what might be going on with Los Angeles Guerrillas. We expected some rumours around this seem to have happened by now, especially because we believe that Vegas and London will most certainly take their time. But with Clayster and Attach being linked to this team, one of the big questions has been, who are their SMG partners going to be? Attached with some potential clues over the last 24 hours as to the direction they might be looking to move in. Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Here's Scrappy here after, I'm guessing it was Method's birthday, right? And they obviously had a rather good time the night before, and Scup looks rather worse for wear in the morning, which I thought was pretty funny, to be honest. Also though, 6 years ago, yesterday now, was the grand finals of the Call of Duty World Championship 2017, which Scump won, first and only championship for OpTic. It's crazy actually to look at over COD Champs histories, just the amount of different organizations that have won it. It goes up by one every single year. Like, apart from Envy, that won when they were Envy and when they were Dallas Empire, there's no organization that's won it more than once, which is pretty crazy to think about. But yeah, 6 years ago, man, it does not feel that long ago. And also, right, the fact that that was August the 13th, when I think the World Championship probably should be. We had it this year in June. Next year, I don't think the CDL are going to do a better job than that, to be perfectly honest. It's, for whatever reason, every year the season just seems to get shorter and shorter, and maybe Microsoft might come in and change the story on that. But still, I used to like it when the season started in December and used to finish in like August. That was a good time, but we don't seem to get that anymore, unfortunately, here in the Call of Duty League, despite the supposed benefits it was meant to bring. We'll see what they come up with when the game launches, and it'll probably be early November. They'll reveal everything with regard to the calendar for the upcoming season, so we'll see about that, but it's still quite a while away. These, I don't believe, are the overall tournament KDs. I think they're the bracket play KDs, possibly, because Formal, I know for sure, had a 1.44 this event, which is widely considered the best event in CDL history from an individual player. There's a few other candidate events, but especially because it's champs, right, and he won it and was the MVP, kind of hands down. Formula, and also this was, like, you guys remember the drama because Crimsix, before the tournament, the OpTic guy said apparently agrees that whoever won the MVP, there was additional, like, prize money, I don't know if it's 25k or whatever it was, for the winner of the MVP to that player, and they'd agreed before the tourney they'd split that between the team anyway, just because, you know, it doesn't really matter who's the MVP, just split the money type thing. Formal decided not to do that. Crimsix wasn't happy about it, but, you know, part of me doesn't blame him when he had a performance like this. You know, 1.36 in the bracket, Scump had a 1.11, and including groups, I think these KDs are even better, but obviously the KDs don't matter that much. But 6 years ago, since then, also I thought this is interesting, speaking of some of these players, there's a few players, of course, that have never been on OpTic, and there's some players that have never been on FaZe, and of course, Clayster is in both of these categories, as are many other players. So, interesting team. Aches, so this, I guess we're talking Prime Aches, right? So we're talking like Ghosts Aches, or whatever you consider Prime Aches to be. Simp, aBeZy, Cell. Like, that is on paper a disgusting team. Aches was, many people describe him as like the aBeZy before aBeZy in some respects. He kind of pioneered that aggressive SMG playstyle where going, you know, having 30 kills, 30 deaths was better than having 30 kills, or especially better than having 25 kills, 10 deaths, for example. Like, especially as an SMG, it was way better to put the pressure on than it was not to, and that's well known today, but at the time, the belief was like, oh, well, higher KD is kind of better, but Aches was kind of pioneering that whole idea of putting pressure on the map is important. So, you know, it would be a very interesting team. They would win a lot in their prime for sure. I know that JKL quote tweeted this to say, well, this first team would dominate the entire regular season, but then this team wins champs. It would be an interesting team with Scump and Kenny. I think it could work from an SMG perspective because that's what you'd have to do. You'd have to put Crim on the flex and Octane on the main. It would be a really nice team. Depends on the game that we're playing here as well to actually analyse this properly. And look, can Scump and Kenny work? If Kenny and Envoy can work and win champs, I think the Scump and Kenny can work. And this is a team that, like, I wonder if they had Aches on this roster, whether this roster of 4 would still struggle to win grand finals, because that's kind of been the weakness of these guys. So in terms of who's going to finish higher in the season standings, I would take this first team. In terms of who's going to win in a grand finals, maybe win champs, I might take the second team. So definitely an interesting one. And speaking of Crim, there has been some questions. Will he come back and get involved at all with FaZe going forwards? There were some, you know, FaZe were baiting around a little while ago that Crim might step in as their coach or something. That doesn't look like it's going to happen, but it's in the same way that when you've got Karma around OpTic, you kind of want him involved in the team to some degree. He probably will be coaching Karma, but even if he's not, just being around the team, speaking to the guys on a regular basis, like almost consulting or whatever by whatever they've got going on over there, I think he will coach, and I don't think that'll be an issue. But it feels like it's kind of wasted talent within your organization if you're not doing that. So Crim, isn't really involved in the cost of it all anymore, but does reply to this tweet from Jake Hale where he asked the question, all right, you either get 10 grand for free or you get $1 million if you win a major next year on any CDL team. Obviously, Crim and any pro player is going to say, yeah, chuck me on FaZe, and I'm going to win the event, or at least one event next season. Atlanta FaZe as supervisor of morale. So we'll see if anything goes on there with Crim going forwards. But let's discuss Rostermania, especially from the Clayster side of things, because the rumor was a long time ago now, before we knew the vast majority of rosters, I think even during when we were hearing about the Subliners and the Priestahh Sib thing, Benjay and Nassim said, yeah, Clay is probably going to LAG. That was the rumor he'd heard at the time. So you can only imagine that that probably still is the case. And also Clay tweets this out yesterday, the best to ever do it, with his FaZe team back in the Jetpack era. So we've got Clay, we've got Zuma, we've got Enable, and then we've got Attach, and then we can see them very clearly in this image from, I'm thinking this is Black Ops 3, right? Yeah, that logo of the COD World League looks like Black Ops 3 FaZe. So yeah, great team, legendary team. Didn't win that much, unfortunately, for these guys during Black Ops 3 or Infinite Warfare, but they did win a lot during the end of the Advanced Warfare season, when they actually managed to overtake OpTic right at the end of that season in terms of winning a few of those events. But it does seem the clues are kind of aligning for Clay and Attach to run it back a little bit, and I do wonder what Attach's future is, just because I know that Attach mentioned on an AMA, I want to say a year and a half ago, and he was like, yeah, I'm probably going to go for like 2 or 3 more seasons, then I'm going to call it a day. So if Octane retired, as he did, I don't think you can rule out Attach retiring as well, which would be a massive shock. I don't think he should or he needs to or anything like that, and it depends on their position, because Clay certainly doesn't want to retire, from what I understand. Clay wants to compete again. He loves it, right? He absolutely lives for it, and, Clay probably won't retire until he's forced to be honest, or he just knows that he just hasn't got it anymore, which I don't believe is the case as it stands. So Attach might go for 1 or 2 more years. I don't know how long Attach is going to continue for. He could continue for a long time to come, I think there's no reason why he shouldn't, but I know that he has entertained the possibility in the past. But if we do get the reunion, the Clay Attach reunion that had good success back in the day and could work nowadays from an secondary AR perspective, I actually quite like what that would mean with the way that these guys currently play. And Attach has been all over the place as well. He was in Lake Como, Italy, he was in Hawaii, I think, now he's in California, so, he's doing an awful lot, and of course California, LA, it's where LA Guerrillas are based. Now, the question would be, if that is a duo, what SMGs do they come along with? And there's been a few clues over the last day or so as to what direction they might move in. So there was this from Shah Madrid who says, Clay, Attach, Standy, and Mac sounds nice. Attach is like, very interesting. And there are a few options on the table, one of which is Standy, of course, and I think that Standy might be the most likely here in some respects, because played with Clay before, they seem to get on relatively well, and of all the options with the highest upside remaining, Standy has got to be one of them. So Mama Standy, of course, comes back and, does this gif with Standy, so implying that, oh yeah, put him in. And then we get Attach, who actually likes this tweet. So Attach went through and liked a few things, but these 2 tweets especially I wanted to highlight, because he likes this one from Nero's mum, actually, and then he also likes this from Standy's mum. These are pretty much the only ones he liked from, we know these esports parents are everywhere, especially on social media. And we also got some things like this in return. So this is Nero's mum's page, and she also liked a couple of tweets here from Attach as well. So there's maybe something in that from that perspective, because, sometimes esports parents do reveal things going on behind the scenes. But it doesn't mean anything's guaranteed at this point, but it does lean towards the idea of Clay, Attach, Nero, Standy being a viable roster going into next season, and I think that it certainly is. And, look, where would this roster be if you guys put it together? I want to say top 8, really, in that kind of range. But, I think that probably is about right, to be fair, because you've got Surge that I don't think are very good, but they should be there or thereabouts, I suppose. Florida, I don't have that much faith in, or Miami, Heretics, whatever. And Vegas and London, they're going to be bottom 4, as it seems right now. So I think this team can be competitive if they were to form it. But here are some options, right? Because the ones that people will look at are the ones that did best last season statistically, and they were Nero, who is on Boston, of course. Now, his numbers in terms of kills per 10, damage per 10, very good. That's why he gets a very high rating, because super aggressive player, absolutely no doubt about it. And when he's on form, he wins you maps. So I think that Nero's got to be a top option to consider, because I thought he was very impressive at Boston for the majority of last year, but unfortunately the relationship there broke down. Stanley, another very good candidate. He was on Toronto at the start of the year, still held a 20-14 record actually over his season, so pretty impressive given that he did go and join Vegas. They weren't the best team, but they weren't too bad, and he was, especially online, he was very good. I know there will be some questions about that from players in kind of this vicinity of some guys really good online, but then when you get to LAN, is it quite the same thing? But you'd think with the experience of Clay and Attach and all that, they should be a pretty solid LAN team. So even if Standy individually is a bit worse on LAN than online, it might not matter much. I'm not sure the same is necessarily true of Nero, although a crazy aggressive playstyle like he has tends to work a little bit better online than it does on LAN. There are a couple of options to throw around here. I did mention Mac. Now look, Mac had a tough season statistically, especially in the search and destroy department, but it's not like the Seattle Surge have ever been good at search, let's be honest, and accuracies teams in general haven't necessarily. So yeah, Mac struggled in that game mode for sure, and I still am of the opinion, to be fair, that Mac might be better off on the flex. I thought that he was at his best during MW19 when he was using an MP5 and an M4 on the SMG. I don't think he's been quite as good, so I think I would take other options over Mac, but it's difficult for a guy like Mac, right, and other players in his position that have had a couple of good seasons, won an event not long ago, but by getting not exactly stuck on Surge, because let's say he was benched from Surge and they brought Gwyn in or something and they did better, that's not helping Mac's stock at all. But Surge still plays pretty well at the end of the year. But, you know, it's the Lion Man Card League or whatever you guys want to say, and people look at the numbers and say it's not so good. Also a Seam I wanted to throw around because, look, his record 7-24. It ain't pretty. He was very solid, though, at the start of the season on London, and an early season Seam is always really good. And I know that people are like, oh, well, he gets gassed up so much by Zuma and Ben on the flank that he actually becomes overrated. And maybe that's true like 2 to 3 months into the season. But generally, a Seam at the start of the year is a really good player. For whatever reason, he doesn't quite seem to be able to maintain it like other players can. But I think that a Seam should for sure be on a roster at the start of next season. So, you know, maybe it's not going to be Guerrillas, and I don't think that Clay and a Seam will want to team up again together. Maybe they will. I'm sure they can put the pass behind them, but I know that there was a bit of friction there, I think, during the New York Subliners days in Cold War, so I'm not sure that would happen, but I think that it seems an option. Also, Havoc, I didn't look the Lion Man card up for Havoc here, but he is another candidate. He was on Florida, of course. He also just hit #1 on the ladder rankings for ranked play, which is, you know, fair play. Havoc grinding this out. I know that he makes good content and stuff, so I'm glad that he's, you know, committed to this and actually made it all the way to #1, so that is very impressive to still be grinding MW2 at this level. But those are the SMGs, at least, that first came to my mind as good candidates here for that theoretical Guerrillas roster. But the two that attaches seemingly pointing towards are Nero and Standy. And as I see it, that probably makes the most sense. Marky B is still going to be over there as well, I guess, helping them with these decision-making decisions. And, well, we know that Arsteez is gone. I'm guessing that Spart is probably gone as well, although we don't really have any official confirmation of that, I don't believe. Even though they technically had a contract and all this, the contracts don't mean that much in sports, it seems, at the end of the day, to be honest. And also, you know, just as I was saying the other day, a few of the things that Clay has mentioned over the last few months, the frustration with Vegas not providing them a facility, not making him a retirement video, and then, well, if he was to retire, right, he would have to basically make it himself, was what he was saying at the time. So, and then he also mentioned the other day about this whole partnership manager drama that we discussed. So I don't think he would say these things if he was really keen on staying on Vegas, and that probably implies he's got something else lined up and on the table. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.